Make him miss you fast psychological trick that works overnight. What if I told you that the key to making him miss your Riley, miss you isn't about chasing, begging, or overthinking, but about unlocking a psychological shift so powerful, he'll feel your absence overnight. Welcome back to the channel where we don't chase love, we attract it. Today's topic is going to shake the ground beneath everything you've been told about relationships. How to make him miss you fast with a psychological trick that works overnight. This isn't manipulation. This is empowerment. It's about tapping into your deepest worth, your feminine energy, and your power to shift the emotional balance without ever lowering your standards. So grab your tea, take a deep breath, and let's get into this. 1.2. Stop scrolling for a minute and listen, because this moment, right here, is where you decide whether you keep feeding the pattern that exhausts you, or you flip the switch and claim the space you deserve. Think about every time you sent that quick, just checking in text. Every hour you spent replaying a conversation, every sleepless night you wondered if you should have said more, done more, been more. That constant availability. Habits and habits are nothing more than repeated decisions. The brain loves them because they're easy, automatic, safe. But automatic isn't working for you, so we're going to break the loop by doing something bold, something counterintuitive. We're going to create emotional contrast in purpose, and we're going to do it fast. Here's the truth. People don't appreciate what's always there. Your voice becomes background noise if it's the soundtrack to every hour of their day. Want proof? Remember your favorite song the first time you heard it. You played it on repeat. You couldn't get enough. Fast forward a week of nonstop replay, and suddenly you're skipping it. That's what happens when you're perpetually present. The brain adapts, files you under always available, and moves on in search of novelty. So the very first move is to interrupt that adaptation by pulling back decisively and cleanly, like snapping a rubber band. No cryptic posts, no dramatic declarations. You are simply undeniably less accessible. You don't announce it, you embody it. Now, I can hear the objections already, but if I step back, won't he just move on? Maybe, but ask yourself, isn't chasing someone who needs constant reminders just another form of settling? You are not in the business of proving your worth. You are in the business of protecting it. Emotional contrast means your presence stands out because it is intentional, not habitual. When you break the pattern, you wake up his nervous system. Suddenly, there's uncertainty where there used to be predictability, and uncertainty triggers attention. The mind starts scanning for missing data. That's when the questions pop up. Where is she? What's she doing? Did I do something? That mental energy is the spark of missing you. Let's get practical. Tonight, when you would normally send that emoji-filled sweet dreams text, pause. Instead, give yourself the gift of a quiet evening. Ritual. Maybe a book you've been meaning to read, a warm bath, a playlist that makes you feel electric. Light a candle, sit with the discomfort of not reaching out. Notice the urge to grab the phone and remind him you exist. Breathe through it. That discomfort is the rewiring process. Every time you override the impulse, you're training your brain into a new standard. But contrast alone isn't enough. You need to remove the emotional oxygen he's been breathing for free. Emotional oxygen is all the subtle ways you nurture his confidence, the pep talks, the flirty comments on social media, the instant replies that validate his importance. It feels generous in the moment, but over time it's what psychologists call hedonic habituation. He gets used to a steady supply of affirmation and stops working for it. So you turn down the flow, not to be cold, but to create conditions where genuine effort can resume. Picture a campfire. If you smother it with an endless gust of air, the flames leap but then burn out quickly because the wood never catches. What keeps a fire alive is a balance, oxygen, fuel, space. Right now, you're the frantic bellows. Step back so the embers can glow and the wood can actually ignite. That means no more double texting, no more filling silences with nervous commentary. Silence used strategically isn't emptiness, it's a canvas. It says, I trust myself enough to let things unfold. You're not withholding. You're allowing natural curiosity to do its job. Let's imagine tomorrow morning. Instead of waking up and scanning your messages, you start with a walk. Feel the air. Let your thoughts wander. Notice the way your shoulders relax when you remember. You have nothing to prove today. Your phone buzzes. You glance, you see his name, and you smile not because validation finally arrived, but because you recognize the shift. Energy flows toward what's scarce. You decide if and when to respond. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you wait until you're centered, coffee in hand, mood uplifted. That delay isn't a tactic. It's a reflection of the life you're actually living. Here's a hard truth. If you've been overgiving, you've probably been under-receiving, and that imbalance fuels resentment. Resentment is relationship rust. It corrodes connection from the inside. Creating distance is how you let that rust flake off. Gives you both a clean surface to build on or a clear view to walk away if the structure was never solid. And let's be clear, you are strong enough for either outcome. Whether he steps up or steps out, you remain. That knowledge alone changes how you carry yourself, and people feel it. Now, emotional oxygen isn't just verbal. It's body language, eye contact, the way you lean forward eagerly during a conversation. Next time you're together, practice. Grounded presence, both feet on the floor, spine tall, shoulders back. Listen more than you speak. Let pauses linger. When he shares something, resist the instinct to immediately comfort or solve. Instead, nod, reflect, and let him feel the weight of his own words. That subtle shift helps him notice the value of your attentive silence. It's like seasoning in a meal too much and the dish is overwhelming. Just enough, and every bite is memorable. I want you to visualize a pendulum. On one side is overfunctioning you. Do all the calling, planning, emotional caretaking. On the other side is underfunctioning. He gets comfortable coasting. By stepping back, you nudge that pendulum so gravity can do its work. He might feel uneasy at first. That's normal. Uneasiness is the brain signaling change. If he values the connection, he'll move toward you to restore equilibrium. If he doesn't, the silence will stretch. Either way, you gain clarity without wasting months in the gray zone. Let's address fear. The fear that disappearing, even briefly, will make you forgettable. That's not how human memory works. We remember strong emotions, delight, surprise, uncertainty. The night he wonders why your usual goodnight text isn't there, his brain marks that as a deviation. Deviation drives attention. Tension fuels curiosity. Curiosity breeds anticipation. Anticipation heightens emotion. When you eventually reappear, bright.com, elevated you, satisfy that anticipation on your terms. This isn't a game. It's emotional physics. I'm going to give you a microscript for the moment he reaches out. If he asks, hey, everything okay? You've been quiet, you respond with confidence. All good here, just catching up on a few things. That's it. No apology for the silence, no lengthy explanation. You are a woman with a life so full, it occasionally demands her undivided focus. That sentence conveys self-respect without arrogance, openness without desperation. It places the spotlight back on him if he wants to engage further. Now, here's the kicker. You must back up this energy with real, tangible upgrades to your own life. Emotional contrast isn't a costume you slip on for a few hours. It's a lifestyle recalibration. Sign up for that workshop. Volunteer. Start the side project that lights you up. When you fill your schedule with experiences that expand you, you naturally have less bandwidth for anxious overthinking. Your conversations become richer because they're rooted in actual growth, not in recycled frustration. People feel momentum. Picture two paths. One is a treadmill, lots of motion, no forward progress. The other is a trail, steady steps, changing scenery. You're choosing the trail. Every new skill you learn, every friendship you nurture, every space you redesign in your home sends a silent signal. You are in motion. That dynamic energy is captivating because most people are stuck. When he senses you're evolving, he's forced to decide, catch up or watch from a distance. Either answer serves you. Let's talk self-talk. The minute you catch yourself thinking, if I don't reach out, he'll forget me, you label that as unhelpful and replace it with, my value isn't measured by his attention. Say it out loud if you have to. Your brain believes what it hears most often. Feed it sentences that strengthen you. That inner dialogue is the foundation of emotional oxygen for yourself. And when you're self-sufficient there, you don't need to oversupply it to anyone else. Quick science check. The scarcity principle in psychology states that people place higher value on things that are less available. But there's a caveat: scarcity only works if the base product is desirable. So invest in making your life, your mindset, your presence genuinely enriching. Scarcity amplifies value. It doesn't. Create it. That's why personal growth isn't optional. It's the source code. Imagine a week from now, you've practiced the pause. You're sleeping better because your phone isn't buzzing at midnight. You've got a new recipe under your belt, maybe a podcast episode that sparked an idea. You're softer in your own company, but sharper in your boundaries. He messages, miss our talks. Pause. Do you? Maybe yes, maybe no. The power is in the question. If it's a yes, you reply at a time that feels good, with warmth but not surrender. If it's a no, let the message sit. The weight of your silence is part of his learning curve. One last tool: visualization. Before bed, close your eyes and picture you, 6 months ahead, living your most vibrant day. Who are you texting? Who are you laughing with? Where are you walking? Feel the confidence in your stride. Make that future vivid. The brain doesn't distinguish much between vividly imagined and experienced reality. It will start organizing your behavior toward that vision. When he senses this forward pull, he'll have to accelerate to match your pace. That's how you make someone miss you, by showing through action and energy that you're already becoming the version of yourself they never thought they could lose. 3.4. The moment you stop reacting, you initiate a radical shift in power because, up until now, every time that notification chimed, your nervous system jumped like a trained dog. Ding, your heart rate spikes. You snatch the phone, thumb racing, brain flooding with a cocktail of cortisol and false hope. That instant response feels like connection. But it's really an invisible addiction. The hit of dopamine you get when you see his name lighting up your screen. He's not the problem. The knee-jerk reaction is, so here's the new rule. You pause. Not forever, not dramatically, just long enough to let the chemical storm settle. So you can choose how to respond instead of letting adrenaline slam its hand on the send button for you. 1. Intentional breath. 4 seconds in. 6 seconds out. Science shows it calms the amygdala. You've just purchased the tiniest bit of space, and in that space lives clarity, dignity, and a quiet, magnetic confidence. When you stop reacting, you force his brain into reflection because your usual pattern is broken. Imagine a conversation that used to go ping-pong-ping-pong. He lobs a lazy wid. You fire back, not much. You, without thinking, and off you go into the same shallow water. But the minute you put the paddle down, the ball stops midair. The silence is a void, and voids demand explanation. He wonders, why didn't she answer? Did I say something? Is she busy? Is she with someone? That swirl of questions is the internal monologue of missing you. Reflection breeds awareness. Awareness stirs emotion. And guess what? You didn't do anything but choose your peace over your impulse. There's a reason: behavioral. Psychologists talk about the stimulus-response gap. Oh, personal freedom lives there. Can't always control the stimulus is. Sporadic texts, the memory triggers, the playlist that remind you of that road trip. But you can absolutely expand that response gap until it's wide enough to walk through. Every time you stretch the gap, you build a neural pathway for self-control, and in a matter of days, the loop rewires. He texts. You see it? You finish the sentence you're writing, pour yourself a glass of water, maybe answer a colleague's email. 10 minutes pass. Then you read it. Notice, you're still alive. The world didn't implode. And already you feel taller because you chose you. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your non-reaction invites him to experience his own conversations without your cushion. When he complains about a tough day and you normally swoop in with empathic fireworks, "I'm so sorry. What can I do? You've got this." Your silence lets him taste his frustration unfiltered. That tiny bit of distance forces him to self-soothe or reach out with something deeper than small talk. Sometimes he will, sometimes he won't. Either result hands you data. Is this a man who can meet you emotionally, or has he relied on your constant validation as a shortcut? Reaction pulls him along. Reflection lets him prove himself or reveal himself while he's processing the quiet. You pivot and pour energy into reinventing your routine. And this is not about schedules or color-coded planners. It's about identity. Who are you when no one's looking? Too many of us live in default mode. Like a browser with 23 tabs open, all courtesy of other people's needs. I wonder why the system lags? Close the tabs. Pick one activity that sparks a flicker of curiosity and build it into your morning, like brushing your teeth. 10 minutes of yoga, learning basic Italian on an app, watering new herbs on the balcony. Small, tangible, physical actions tell your brain, we're explorers. Again, and explorers don't sit by the phone waiting for a breadcrumb of attention. They lace up and step out the door, reinventing your routine signals to your subconscious that life is in motion, and motion is the antidote to obsessive thought. The mind is a meaning-making machine. Idle time becomes a petri dish for fantasies, anxieties, reruns of half-remembered fights. By filling your calendar with acts that nourish you, coffee with an old friend, a webinar on mindset, that dusty paint set in the closet, you deprive rumination of its feeding window. Neuroscience backs this up. Novelty releases dopamine. You get the chemical thrill your brain craved from his texts, only now you're the supplier. The dependency loop snaps. Freedom floods in. Let's zoom in on Friday night. Instead of refreshing his last seen status, you're at a local open mic because you always loved live music in your 20s. The air smells like bergamot candles and cheap beer. A woman steps up, nervous, and belts out an original song that makes your skin prickle. You applaud so hard your palms sting. And for a fleeting second, you remember who you were before this relationship dynamic hijacked your bandwidth. That memory is power. Stack enough of those moments and they form a new story. The heroine who writes her own plot twists. He may notice the glow on your face in that photo a friend tags. Maybe he double taps it. Maybe he scrolls past irrelevant. The main event is the chemical shift inside you. Serotonin from social connection. Oxytocin from shared laughter. Endorphins from dancing offbeat under string lights. Those hormones rewrite the craving script. You're no longer a beggar at the gate of his attention. You're a banquet hall of self-generated joy. And that's exactly the energy that mystifies people. The quiet radiance of someone. It's good either way. Practical checkpoint. Boundaries. You can't reinvent your routine if you keep cluttering it with low-value engagements. Do your future. Self a favor and put phone-free blocks on your calendar. Use tech to set app time limits. Treat them like training wheels until the muscle of presence strengthens. When you're at dinner with friends, put the phone face down or radical move leave it in the car. Absence teaches your mind that nothing collapses without constant surveillance. And that lesson seeps into every facet of your confidence. When the urge hits to break the silence, just to clarify, Remember Mel's 5-second rule. Count. Backward 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and move. Physically move. Stand up, stretch, wash a dish, step onto the porch. Action breaks the state, buys distance from the craving, and 9 times out of 10, the urgency evaporates like fog. That's not magic. It's neurobiology. You interrupted the habit loop before the cue led to the routine of texting. Tiny victories. Repeated daily turn into unshakable self-trust. Now let's talk about the ripple effect of living for you. Your reinvented routine becomes a lighthouse, and people, friends, colleagues, suitors notice the beam. They see you joining that weekend. Hiking group, here you booked a solo spa day. Witness your spark return. Some will cheer, some will feel threatened, some will reach out because curiosity is irresistible. What they think is none of your business. What matters is that your world is expanding again. Expansion feeds resilience. Resilience magnetizes. Respect. Respect is the soil where healthy love grows. Meanwhile, he faces a decision point. The reflection triggered by your non-reaction meets the reality of your vibrant new routine. He can evolve and engage at a higher frequency, or he can drift into the background noise of your increasingly fulfilling life. Either way, you're occupied, constructing, creating, connecting. There's a fierceness in that which can't be faked. You don't need to post cryptic motivational quotes or edit your life into perfection for social media. The real transformation happens on the inside and leaks out in spontaneous smiles, calmer responses, better posture. There will be slips, expect them. Maybe you cave on a rough day, send a rambling text, and immediately regret it. Instead of spiraling into shame, treat it like strength training. The muscle wobbled under heavy weight, so adjust the form and keep lifting. Progress isn't linear, it's cyclical, like seasons. The win is noticing the patterns sooner and correcting faster. Celebrate. That self-compassion fuels persistence far better than self-criticism. As the weeks roll, your reinvented routine will crystallize into identity. You'll introduce yourself differently. I'm experimenting with pottery. I'm training for a 1OK. I'm reading 3 books on mindset this quarter. These aren't brag lines. They're breadcrumbs of the path you're blazing. You become a narrative in motion, and people love narratives because they hint at possibility. You'll feel that gravitational pull, not because you engineered it, but because human beings are wired to chase meaning and growth. If he's capable of both, he'll find his stride beside you. If he's not, the distance you create will feel natural, even merciful. Remember, reflection without reaction, reinvention without permission. You are not waiting for closure, validation, or reciprocity before you live boldly. You're doing it now, in real time, with imperfect steps and glorious stumbles. And every morning you wake up to a life that's a fraction more aligned, a degree more vibrant, a notch more yours. Keep stacking those fractions, and before long, you'll look back and realize the person who once measured her worth by someone else's immediate response has been replaced by a woman who trusts the echo of her own footsteps. The silence is no longer empty. It's the sound of space being reserved for something extraordinary to grow. 5.6. You want to make him miss you? Then stop doing the one thing you keep falling back on every time you feel that ache of loneliness. You keep overgiving. You give too much of your time, your energy, your love, your thoughts, your words. You pour out your essence like you're trying to prove you're worthy of being chosen. And let me tell you something straight. Worthiness doesn't come from what you give, it comes from who you are when you finally stop trying to be everything for someone else. It's time to recalibrate your energy and flip the magnet around psychologically. People don't crave what's constantly available. Think about it. The human brain is wired to assign more value to something that feels rare, exclusive, or unpredictable. This is not manipulation. This is biology. When you're too available always, texting first, always saying yes, always giving updates and reaching out to remove the mystery, the unknown, the tension. And tension is what creates desire. Desire lives in the space between what's given and what's uncertain. You need to create that space. So here's the truth bomb. Your energy is currency. It's not endless. It's a limited, powerful resource, and where you spend it determines what you attract back. The more you pour into someone who isn't showing up in equal measure, the more you reinforce a dynamic where they never have to do the work. They never have to wonder. They never have to lean in, because you're already doing the leaning for them. Think of it like a seesaw. You're stuck on the ground because you're carrying the whole emotional weight of the connection. You keep texting, you keep initiating, you keep explaining. But until you pull back and redistribute your energy, away from him and back into yourself, there is no reason for him to rise. He doesn't feel the shift because you never let him experience your absence. You never leave space for him to miss you. That energy you're giving, start redirecting it. When your instinct tells you to check his socials, pause. When you want to send a check-in text just to stay on his radar, pause. Instead, ask, what do I need right now that I'm hoping he'll give me? Is it validation, comfort, reassurance that I matter, that I'm enough? If the answer is yes, then stop, breathe, and give that to yourself. It's where the real work begins. The second you become your own source of emotional fulfillment, your entire vibe changes and, yes, they can feel that. They feel the detachment. They feel the shift in energy. It's like a radio signal that suddenly goes quiet, and they notice. This is where boundaries come in, not walls, boundaries. A wall shuts people out. A boundary teaches people how to treat you. If you don't know how to set one, it starts with recognizing what drains you and drawing a hard line around it. If texting all night leaves you anxious and empty, the next day, set a rule: no late-night conversations unless they're meaningful. If last-minute meets make you feel like an afterthought, stop saying yes just to keep the connection alive. The right person will rise to meet the standard you set. Wrong one will fade, and that's a blessing, not a loss. Start valuing your time the way you want someone else to value it. You don't need to be constantly accessible. You don't need to respond within minutes. That's not how high-value women operate. They move with intention. They're present in their lives. They're not waiting on the next notification like it's oxygen. They know their energy is sacred and they spend it wisely. That when you carry yourself like that, something magnetic happens. You create emotional gravity. He starts leaning in not because you chased, but because you finally stood still long enough for him to feel the pull. Now let's talk about the part no one wants to hear because it's not cute, it's not romantic, and it's not easy. You've got to break your own pattern. That pattern you keep falling into where you give more, care more, try harder than the other person. That's not love. That's self-abandonment in disguise. It's the little voice in your head that says, maybe if I just do a little more, he'll finally see me. You have to kill that voice not with anger, but with compassion. She's trying to keep you safe. She learns somewhere along the way that love has to be earned, proven, performed. But she's wrong. Love real, mutual, grounded love doesn't ask you to contort yourself. It meets you where you are. Let's be clear. When you pull back your energy, you're not playing games. You're breaking codependency. You're ending the cycle of overfunctioning. You're reclaiming your time and mental bandwidth. And from a psychological standpoint, you're creating the contrast that triggers emotional awareness in the other person. See, the brain is designed to notice changes in patterns. If you've always been the first to reach out and suddenly you're not, it registers as disruption. Disruption activates attention. Attention stirs curiosity. Curiosity leads to action. And what happens when he reaches out after feeling your absence? You don't jump, you don't reward crumbs. You check in with yourself first. You ask, does this serve me? Does this feel reciprocal? Does this feel genuine or just reactive? Because we're not here to win someone back, we're here to build connections that are aligned, secure, and mutually fulfilling. Let's go even deeper. The most magnetic energy you can embody is peace. When you finally reach a place where his presence doesn't dictate your mood. Yes. When you're no longer swinging between the highs of attention and the lows of indifference, you create stability. Yes. That stability is rare, and people crave it, even if they don't know how to name it. When you're grounded in your worth, your energy says, I'm good either way. That's power. That's leverage. That's when he starts thinking, wait a second, did I lose something I didn't even know I needed? And here's the kicker, your peace forces him to sit with his own discomfort. When you're no longer emotionally babysitting him, no longer cushioning the silence, no longer making excuses for his inconsistency, he has to deal with the void left behind. That's when he starts questioning. That's when he starts missing you. It's not just the convenience of you, not just the way you made him feel, but you, your laugh, your insight, your presence, 'cause he finally feels the vacuum where your energy used to be. And let me tell you, that vacuum is loud. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful psychological tricks of all, unpredictability. The human brain craves patterns. It thrives on predictability because that's how it feels safe. But it also gets bored fast. When you become entirely predictable, you become background noise. When you pull your energy back and start living for you, not him, you break the loop. Suddenly, you're not where he left you. You're not replying within 5 seconds. You're not posting things that seem aimed at him. You're not even acting like you need him to notice you. That unpredictability, that shift, it forces him to pay attention, and unpredictability doesn't mean chaos, doesn't mean emotional games. It means freedom. The freedom to change, the freedom to evolve, the freedom to not always explain yourself. It means letting go of the need to be perceived a certain way. When you stop trying to manage how you're seen, you become captivating, not because you're trying to be, but because you're finally just being you, authentically, unapologetically, fully. And here's what that does to him. It triggers fear of loss, not in a manipulative way, but in a very real, very primal way. The idea that the version of you he thought he could always access is growing beyond the role he once had in your life, that hits deep. That creates urgency. That forces him to consider, maybe for the first time, that if he doesn't step up, he might lose something truly extraordinary. Asterisk, but again, and I need you to really let this sink in. You're not doing any of this for him. You're doing it for you, for your peace, for your self-respect, for the version of you that's been buried under years of overgiving and under-receiving. That woman is waking up now. It's not desperate. She's discerning. She doesn't chase, she attracts. And she's not afraid to walk away from anything that costs her her peace. Because she finally understands that making him miss you is not about tricks, it's about truth. It's about the energy shift that happens when you remember who the hell you are. 7.8 There comes a moment in every woman's life when she looks in the mirror. Not the soft glance you give while brushing your teeth, but that deep, eyes locked, soul-searching stare, realizes she's been living under someone else's spell, his opinions, his silence, his hot and cold affection. They've all shaped how you feel about yourself. And I'm here to rip the curtain back on that lie, because the real secret, the psychological shift that changes everything, is this. You stop seeking validation from him. You give it to yourself. That may sound simple, but it's one of the hardest damn things you'll ever do because we're wired from a young age to associate our worth with someone else's approval. You got praised when you were helpful, when you were pretty, when you were quiet, agreeable, nice. You learned to tune yourself to the needs of others so you could be chosen, liked, accepted. And that pattern doesn't disappear in adulthood. It morphs. You begin shaping your text messages to sound cool. You shrink your opinions. To avoid conflict, You wait by your phone like it's an altar, hoping his attention will finally confirm what you're dying to believe. That you matter. But here's the truth. His validation is a sugar high. It spikes your self-esteem for about 20 minutes and then crashes you into self-doubt all over again. It's unstable. And if you let someone else define your worth, you will always be at the mercy of their moods, their inconsistencies, their attention span. You become a character in their story, not the hero of your own. So how do you flip it? You start recognizing your own patterns and choosing different ones. You hear that little voice in your head, the one that says, text him, so he knows you care. Or don't post that. He might think you're trying too hard, and you pause. You breathe. You ask, is this action for me, or am I hoping it changes how he sees me? If the answer is the latter, you don't act. You wait until your motivation is rooted in you. That pause. That's power. That's reprogramming your brain. You're rewiring decades of approval addiction, and every time you do, your confidence expands. And confidence is a funny thing. It's quiet, doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, and it doesn't beg. Confidence walks into a room and doesn't need to announce its presence because it knows. It knows that no one can give you worth and no one can take it away. When you carry that energy, people feel it. And not just him, everyone. Friends, colleagues, strangers. Your presence changes because you're no longer performing. That's magnetic. That's how people start missing you because they feel the absence of your need for them. You're no longer giving them the job of making you feel whole. That job's filled. You've hired yourself. And what about when? He comes back. Because he will. He'll sense the shift. He'll notice the change in your tone, your pace, your priorities. Okay? And he'll test the waters. He'll send the casual, hey stranger, or that was thinking about you. And you'll feel the old pull, that warmth that rises in your chest, that flicker of hope. But this time, you're different. This time, you don't automatically leap. You don't confuse attention with affection. You check in with you first. Does this align with how I want to be treated? Is this man consistent, respectful, intentional, or is this just another dose of false comfort? Because here's the deal. You've learned to live without the emotional roller coaster. You've created peace, and peace becomes your standard. If someone disturbs it, no matter how much history you share, they don't get automatic re-entry. Your heart is no longer a revolving door. You've learned that missing someone doesn't mean you go back to them. It means you honor the love, learn from it, and keep moving forward wiser, stronger, more grounded. This leads us to something that no one talks about enough. When you finally detach your self-worth from someone else's opinion of you, you realize the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with your future self. Let me say that again. Your future self is depending on you. She's out there 6 months from now, a year from now, living the life you're building with every choice you make today. And she's either going to thank you for breaking the pattern, or she's going to still be stuck in the cycle you couldn't walk away from. So here's what I want you to do. Start showing up for her. Every time you choose not to text first, every time you sit with your feelings instead of chasing distraction, every time you journal your triggers instead of reacting impulsively or voting for the woman you're becoming. And she is badass. She doesn't just survive heartbreak. She uses it as fuel. She doesn't lose herself in love. She expands. She doesn't wait for a man to miss. Her's too busy building a life that makes her magnetic as hell. Because here's the real psychological trick that works overnight. It's not about him missing you. It's about you finally realizing you don't need him to. And the moment that clicks, the moment you stop making someone else's actions the barometer of your value, you wake up. You start to see everything differently. You don't just walk into rooms differently. You occupy space differently. If you stop asking, will he text? And start asking, what does my life need today? You stop performing for affection and start creating from alignment. And here's the kicker: when he sees that, when he senses that you've stepped out of the narrative he once controlled, he starts to question everything. Because people don't miss the person who's always available. They miss the person who grew without them. They miss the woman who once revolved around them and now orbits something greater herself. This kind of transformation doesn't need a stage or an audience. It happens in the small moments, the pause before you reply. It's the refusal to explain yourself, the choice to go to that event alone because your presence is enough. It happens when you stop asking why he didn't call and start asking why you felt incomplete without it. That's the kind of self-awareness that makes you unstoppable. Not just in love, but in life. Because eventually, love will come again, but it'll look different. It won't feel like anxiety and overthinking and constantly proving your worth. It'll feel like peace, like safety, like expansion. And it will come because you did the work to become someone who doesn't settle for crumbs. When she knows she's the whole damn meal. So while he's sitting in the echo of your absence, wondering where you went, you'll be out there choosing. Better, living deeper, speaking louder, shining brighter. Not for revenge, not for attention, but because you finally remembered who you are. You don't need tricks. You don't need games. You need truth. And the truth is, the most irresistible version of you is the one who no longer needs to be Miss B, because she's too busy being unforgettable. Conclusion, call to action. Let me ask you this. What would happen if, starting tonight, you stopped overgiving and started owning your worth instead? What if, by morning, the shift in your energy caused a ripple that he couldn't ignore? This isn't just about making him miss you. It's about rediscovering the woman he forgot to cherish. Because you forgot to honor. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever stepped back from someone and seen them come running back? Or maybe you're ready to start tonight. Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it. If this message spoke to your soul, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so we can keep growing, healing, and glowing together. And, hey, drop your topic requests below. I love creating these conversations with you in mind. Until next time, remember who you are, and never settle for anyone who forgets it.